This is Aaron Kupferberg with Popaholic. Today we're talking with Yngwie Malmsteen. How are you today, Yngwie?
Hello, nice to be here.
Great, great. I know you have a new album coming out, Relentless, right?
Yes, indeed.
And can you tell me a little bit about how you put Relentless together?
Well, in the past, of course, I've been doing this for many years. What's the standard thing to do is like, I don't want to start with an egg before a chicken or whatever, but let's say you're on tour.
Yeah.
Then you come off the tour, then you take a break, guests and start writing songs. In my case, I write the songs. You rehearse the songs with the band, you go in and record the songs, you mix it, then you go on tour. And then you do the same thing and you go on, everything goes in cycles. Like you tour, you write, you record, you go on tour, Now, starting with Perpetual Flame, before this, I did touring and writing and touring and recording mixed up. I come off tour and I go and record something, then I go back out and so forth, which was a really good thing. I thought it made that thing very fresh, Now, with this one, the brand new Relentless album, it's similar, but yet not. I have the luxury of having my own studio, so I can do whatever I want, whenever I want. I just, none of this, worrying about lockout time and all that stuff. So,
right, and you have your own label as well.
Yeah, but I never cared what a label said before anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Okay.
No, just a joke, of course. I mean, you have to meet deadlines and stuff like that. But the great thing with my setup is I am the songwriter, I'm the composer, I'm the producer, I am all of that. Lyricist, I do the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
So if I'm not inspired, I just don't do it. Right,
and you could put it off until another time.
If I'm inspired, it comes out in waves, like really very, very productive, And that's resulting, for two reasons it results in, the result is always much better. Because you only keep the inspired compositions, you only keep the inspired performances. You don't go, I really can't get into this right now, but no, I gotta do it because the clock is running,
Right.
And so the really beautiful thing about that is that I can do what I want. But at the same time, I've been traveling. I went to Italy and I went to Russia and places like that, and Israel. In the meantime, in New York and all that stuff, as I'm in the studio. But the last part of the studio work, I was slowly in the studio, right? So that's when I do that, things start happening. Like some of the songs actually popped up out of nowhere as I'm like in almost in mix mode.
Right.
The overture and Look at You Now. Those things I put on like in the last moment.
Yeah, I really like Look at You Now. It has kind of a Brian May feel to it a little bit,
Yeah.
Yeah, I also like Cross to Bear. That has a great, majestic, regal feeling with it as well. I read a little bit about when you were a kid. You used to play so much. You played until your fingers bleed, and you were obsessed with the classical compositions on guitar. What got you what got you so obsessed with those composers?
It's a funny thing that you should say that because I'm writing a book as well for the last couple of years. I'm putting down a book. I'm taking my time.
Right.
It's about my whole life and everything, memoirs. And so I often reflect in that book, and I reflect on it now as well. What is it that drives me like that? I don't know. I really don't know. That's why the album's called Relentless. And because it's two different things, two weird things about it. So when I was a kid, I grew up in Sweden, in the 70s. And in Sweden in the 70s was a very sort of like socialist country, like don't do anything, stick out of the ordinary, stay in line and be, everybody's the same, don't be individual, and,
right.
Which is something I hate. I hate that, I'm much for the individual expression,
You were meant to come here.
Yeah, but listen, so what happened was that not only was it smeared upon to be a musician or any sort of artist, that was not a real job, But the fact that, not only was I a musician, but the stuff that I did was like neoclassical heavy metal, it was this type of music that didn't even exist. That became known with my first solo album. Then everybody in the world figured out what that is. But before then, that was not even put on the record. I mean, all this stuff in my first album, Black Star and all this stuff that I wrote when I was 17 years old in Sweden.
Wow.
So the likelihood of me making it and making it as big as I have, and that's for so long as I have, is unbelievable. Because that type of drive and that sort of relentless pursuit that I had didn't have that cat in front of me saying, well, if you do this, you'll be famous and rich, and all the women's going to, follow you, and you're going to be rich and all that. No. It was more to be there. I was more told, you're going to do this, you're going to end up living in the street. Right. And you know what I did? So be it. I'd rather die, live in the street, than not do this. And it was like a true suffering, starving artist, musician thing. I sacrificed everything for this. Everything.
Wow. Well, I noticed that also, that over the course of your career, I mean, you had personal physical injuries to yourself. I mean, you damaged your hands in 87. I think you broke your hand in like 92. The physical therapy must have been mind-numbing. I mean, to come back from those injuries.
Well, yes and no, because that's just a perfect example on my personality trait, which is I am completely and utterly relentless. Mm-hmm. I cannot be stopped. I'm this kind of person that I set a goal, that is it. And I will not stop until I get there. And that goes for every single aspect of my life, everything.
Well, that's great.
And the song, The Tide of Desire, that's like the lyric in that song is about that. But the thing is that, I've often wondered, because now...
Well, you've done well.
Dozens of albums, and I'm doing very well, and I don't have to prove anything to anybody, and I still have this relentless thing.
Yes, no, I noticed you just can. That's why the title "Relentless" is so appropriate. Yeah. I also wanted to ask you about the guitar you're using for this album. Are you still using the Duck, the replica of the '72 Strat that you've played?
No, actually, I used the Yngwie Malmsteen Fender Strat.
Okay, so now you have your own line of guitars, and you're using this special guitar made for you, right?
Yeah. It's a Stratocaster, but it's got a scallop neck.
Yeah.
And it's got Steve Duncans, and that's it. And I'm using an Yngwie Malmsteen Marshall as well.
Great. Oh, nice.
Yeah, that's going to be official release in January now, so...
Well, great. I'm sure guitar enthusiasts will want to pick that one up. Your music has been really successful. It's come in and out of fashion over the years, but you're pretty consistent in your virtuosity, and your fan base is very loyal as well. Do you ever feel that you have to sort of shift or change style or direction based on what's in fashion musically at all, ever? Do you ever feel any pressure like that, or are you just like, this is what I do and this is how I'm going to do it, and that's the end? The latter. Okay. that's pretty straigolard. I wanted to...
Here's the thing. Let me try to explain something. Mm-hmm. When I was a little kid, I grew up in a family where everyone was very musical. My older brother and sister were very good classical musicians. My mother's a jazz singer. My father's a guitar player. My grandfather's a jazz drummer. My uncles and aunts are like opera singers. And my other uncle is a electronic, whiz. He was part of the team that invented CD technology at Philips, and so on and so on. So I grew up in a very good environment in that sense. Especially being in Sweden, where most people in Sweden at the time were, regular jobs, so to speak. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying, for me, it was better. And when I got my first guitar, I was 5 years old, and then, hence, I get my first record ever was Deep Purple, Fireball, I think it was.
Right.
I knew that I wanted to play hard rock. I knew I wanted to play loud metal style music. But then, eventually, when the blues-based rock and roll it wore kind of like hollow on me almost. I felt that there's got to be something else here. And like my older sister, she would bring in records from everything from Frank Zappa to Genesis and everything, from Peter Gabriel era.
Right.
And I used to listen to that, and I said, wow, listen to this inverted and diminished chords and stuff like this, and pedal notes. And I listened to my mother's Bach and Vivaldi and Beethoven recollections. I knew that I wanted the hard sound and the tonality and the finesse and the intelligence of Baroque classical music. And I was very young. I was like 12 years old when I knew that is what I'm going to do. And there's no one going to change it,
Right.
And there's a bizarre thing about that is that, at that time I was completely relentless. And I just would not give up or give in for any reason to do, for any, I would just keep on doing this until I found what I thought sounded right,
Right.
And I remember just about that time, there was something called the punk wave came out.
Right.
And I was appalled that mediocrity and inability to play music became in,
Right. It was almost like, the Velvet Underground, you just pick up your instrument, your attitude was more important.
I was disgusted and appalled, and I was only a little kid, Mm-hmm. And then, of course, there was the disco and everything like this, right? But I thought the disco at least had some substance, musically, a little bit,
Right.
And then, of course, I come to America when I was I'm a teenager, and the whole metal thing is huge, and, I'm on that wave, and that was great. And I get to do what I always want to do, and I make my records, and all of a sudden, it's the grunge thing come out. It's deja vu, like just 20 years later, or maybe 15, 20 years later, whatever, then all of a sudden it's in to suck again. And I mean, not all the horses and all the king's men in the world would ever make me diminish my ability to fit in with that,
That makes sense.
I mean, why would I do that? It's like driving a Ferrari and all of a sudden you have to buy whatever, Kia or something.
Right. No. I totally get it.
I like the Ferraris. So
Yeah. I get it. Question: Have you ever seen they have a cartoon called Metalocalypse on TV, which is
but another. I think you're number 7 or 8 today.
Yeah, I'm the 7th person to ask you that. I've always wanted to know if you wanted to be a cartoon character on that show.
Well, they told me that there already was one there.
Really? Name Yngwie?
That's what it told me, so I'm going to check that out.
Okay. Should take a look at it. It's because it's all arpeggio style playing as well. It's pretty interesting. So, I guess just to round things out, what do you think up to this point is your proudest accomplishment as a guitarist?
Well, the obvious answer is my latest record.
Good answer.
But I'm very, very proud of my classical work. I think that I can look back at all the stuff I've done and say, honestly and proudly, that it was the best I could do then,
Right.
You see, at this particular moment in time, right now, in my life, I'm the healthiest, most focused, happiest, place I've been in, ever, since I was alive. I don't have any distractions. The music flourishes and basically finds its own life. Whereas there's been times when, I've had, other distractions and problems and, in life, and that will reflect on the music, not necessarily making it darker, sometimes more commercial, because it's easier,
Right.
But I'm always proud of what I've done, but reflecting on how focused and how together I am, it better it is. And this is the best I've ever been. So take it from that.
Well, that's great. And Yngwie, I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to me today. For those of you listening, definitely pick up Relentless. It's a really good album. And thank you so much, Yngwie.
Thank you.